There's a strange kind of moment when nothing dramatic happens, but you suddenly realize you can breathe again. No panic when you check your bank account, no heaviness in your chest when you wake up, no quiet fear about what tomorrow might bring. And the strange part is, you didn't notice the change while it was happening. It happened slowly, until one day you looked around your life and thought, wait, when did things start feeling this calm? Aquarius, this isn't luck. This is what stability feels like, for the first time in a long time. Before we go deeper, leave a comment and tell me one word that describes how your life feels right now. Because what's coming next might explain why everything you've been through was quietly preparing you for something much bigger. You know what I find beautiful about you, Aquarius? You don't announce your struggles. You carry them quietly, like background noise in your soul, the kind no one hears but you feel every day. For a long time, you were moving through life with your shoulders slightly raised, not from stress you could name, but from a constant inner alert system that never really turned off. Always scanning, always calculating, always preparing for what might go wrong next. Not because you're pessimistic, but because you learned very early that stability was something you had to create for yourself. And somewhere along the way, that survival mode became your normal. You didn't even realize how tense you were until one evening you caught yourself sitting in silence. Not scrolling, not worrying, not rehearsing tomorrow in your head. Just sitting, breathing, and feeling, nothing urgent. That's when it hits you. Not as excitement, not as celebration, but as a soft, unfamiliar peace. It almost feels suspicious at first, like you're waiting for the other shoe to drop, like your nervous system doesn't trust calm yet. But here's the truth no one ever tells you about growth. It doesn't arrive with fireworks. It arrives quietly, through the absence of fear, through the way your body starts relaxing before your mind does, through the way your sleep gets deeper before your dreams get bigger, through the way your thoughts slow down before your life speeds up. You didn't win the lottery. You didn't suddenly become lucky. You simply stopped living like everything could collapse at any moment. And that's a radical shift for someone like you. Because Aquarius, your strength has never been about ambition. It's been about endurance, about holding yourself together in seasons when nothing felt certain, about staying mentally strong when emotionally you felt unsupported, about being the one who figured things out, even when no one taught you how. So, when your nervous system finally starts to rest, when your mind no longer needs to be 10 steps ahead, that's not laziness, that's healing. Let me ask you something gently. When was the last time you checked in with yourself and thought, I'm actually okay right now, not grateful, not optimistic, not motivated, just okay? Because for someone who's been surviving for so long, being okay feels almost unfamiliar. It feels empty at first, then peaceful, then powerful. This is the moment most people overlook, the moment right before life truly changes. Not when things explode into success, but when your inner world becomes quiet enough to finally receive something better. You might not see it yet, but this calm you're feeling isn't the end of the story. It's the doorway, and the version of you who walks through it is not the one who's tired of surviving. It's the one who's finally ready to live. And what's even more interesting, Aquarius, this new calm didn't come with fireworks. It arrived like a quiet adjustment in the background of your life, almost easy to miss if you weren't paying attention. One day you realized you weren't checking your balance with that tight feeling in your stomach anymore. Not because there was suddenly a huge number there, but because the number no longer scared you. It felt subtle, almost boring, and that's exactly why it was powerful. You see, real financial shifts rarely feel dramatic at first. They feel like space, like breathing room between decisions, like the ability to pause before saying yes or no. Somewhere along the way, you started making choices that weren't driven by fear, not rushing into things, not saying yes just to survive, not saying no just to protect yourself. Maybe it was a job that finally respected your time. Maybe a skill you invested in years ago that quietly matured. Maybe a version of you that stopped underpricing your own value. Whatever it was, it didn't feel like luck. It felt like alignment. And I think that's something people don't talk about enough. How growth often feels anticlimactic. No announcement, no applause, just one ordinary day that feels slightly lighter than the one before. You probably didn't even tell anyone. Because Aquarius, you don't measure success by what others see. You measure it by how safe you feel inside your own life. And for the first time in a long time, your future doesn't feel like a question mark. It feels manageable. There's a certain kind of maturity that happens after 35, when money stops being about proving something, and starts being about protecting your peace, not chasing luxury, not competing, just wanting a life that doesn't exhaust you. You want to wake up without dread. You want to make choices without panic. You want to feel like your life is working with you, not constantly asking you to keep up. And that's exactly what's happening now. Quietly, naturally, without forcing. You're not rich in the way movies describe it, but you're rich in the way your nervous system feels when it realizes, I don't need to run anymore. There's something deeply healing about knowing you can handle what comes next. Not because you have everything figured out, but because you trust yourself enough to adapt. That's a different kind of security. Not financial, but emotional. Not numbers, but self-belief. Let me ask you something that might feel a little uncomfortable. If nothing dramatically improved from here, would your current life still feel okay to live in? Because that answer tells you everything about how far you've come. For so long, you were chasing stability as a destination, a finish line, a future version of yourself who would finally relax. But what you're experiencing now isn't the future. It's the present catching up with your growth. And I think that's the real shift. Not more money, not better opportunities, but the quiet realization that you're no longer afraid of the basics. You trust your ability to sustain yourself, to rebuild if needed, to start over without losing your identity. That kind of confidence doesn't come from success. It comes from surviving enough to know you don't break as easily as you once thought. So maybe this phase of your life doesn't feel exciting yet. Maybe it feels calm, maybe even a little empty. But emptiness is where new things have room to grow. And if you listen closely, beneath the calm, there's a gentle sense that something is slowly preparing itself around you. Not rushing, not demanding, just waiting for you to fully realize that you are no longer building from lack. You're building from stability now, and that changes everything. There is a moment, Aquarius, when a place stops feeling temporary, not because the walls are new, but because your nervous system finally exhales when you walk through the door. It might not look dramatic from the outside, no grand reveal, no perfect aesthetic, but inside you, something recognizes this space as yours, not borrowed, not tolerated, chosen. And that's the part most people miss. This shift isn't really about a house, it's about permission. For most of your life, you adapted. You learned how to fit into environments that were never designed for your frequency. You made yourself quieter, smaller, more flexible than you ever should have had to be. But now, something in you refuses to compress anymore. You notice it in simple things. How you arrange your mornings, the light you let in, the sounds you keep. The people you no longer invite into your private hours. This space doesn't ask you to perform. It doesn't demand explanations. It doesn't mirror other people's expectations. It mirrors you. And that can feel strangely emotional at first, almost uncomfortable. Because when a place finally reflects who you are, you can no longer pretend to be someone else. There is a quiet identity shift happening here. Not the kind you announce, the kind that rewires how you relate to yourself. You're no longer living to prove that you deserve stability. You're living as if stability is your baseline. That's a powerful difference. Your home becomes a boundary, a filter, a declaration that your energy is not public property anymore. And the more you settle into it, the more you realize you're not just changing addresses, you're changing roles. It's that you are no longer the one waiting for life to approve of you. You are the one deciding what gets access. This space holds your silence without trying to fill it. It supports your routines instead of disrupting them. It gives you room to think in your own rhythm. And for an Aquarius, that is everything. Because your mind needs oxygen. Not pressure, not noise, not constant negotiation. Here, you can finally hear your own thoughts again. Not the echoes of other people's needs, not the urgency of external timelines, just you, in real time, in real space. Let me ask you something gently. If no one ever visited this place, if no one ever saw it or validated it, would you still love living here? Because that answer reveals how deeply this home is aligned with your truth. This isn't about luxury, it's about congruence. The rare feeling that your outer world finally matches your inner one. You're not hiding parts of yourself anymore. Not spiritually, not emotionally, not physically. Your home becomes a mirror that says, I see you. You are allowed to take up this much space. And that kind of permission reshapes everything else. How you choose relationships, how you spend time, how you imagine your future. You stop asking where you belong, because your body already knows. You belong where you don't have to shrink. And this place, whatever form it takes, is not the end of your journey. It's the first environment that fully supports the person you've become. Not the one you were trying to be, but the one who finally feels at home inside their own life. And just when life feels calm in your hands, not perfect but steady, the past finds your number again. It happens quietly. A name on your screen, a familiar voice in your inbox, a memory you thought had finally learned how to stay asleep. There is no drama at first, just a strange pause in your body, a soft tightening in the chest, not fear, recognition, because this person knows a version of you that no longer exists. They return with different words now, softer, more reflective. They speak about growth, about lessons, about timing. They say they finally understand. They say they are ready. And maybe they are telling the truth, but the deeper truth is quieter. You are not waiting anymore. In the past, their absence shaped your days. You replayed conversations. You questioned your worth. You tried to become more acceptable. Oh, more patient, more available. You made space for someone who never fully chose you. Now, something in you listens differently, not with longing, with clarity. You notice how your body responds before your mind does. There is no rush, no inner negotiation, no urgency to prove anything. Just a calm question rising from somewhere deeper. Does this connection add to the life I have built, or does it pull me back into who I used to be? That question alone tells you how much you have changed. Because growth is not about cutting people off. It is about not abandoning yourself anymore. They might genuinely regret. They might sincerely feel different. But you no longer measure love by words. You measure it by nervous system safety, by consistency, by how much space you are allowed to occupy without shrinking. This is where Aquarius becomes dangerous in the most beautiful way. Not emotionally cold, emotionally sovereign. You can hold compassion without reopening wounds. You can listen without reopening old roles. You can care without needing closure. There is a new kind of power in you now. Not loud, not defensive, just grounded. You are no longer attracted to potential. You are attracted to presence. And that shifts everything. Because the version of you who waited would have seen this return as a sign, a cosmic apology, a second chance written in stars. But the version of you who stands here now sees it as a mirror, reflecting how far you have come. You no longer need to be chosen to feel valuable. You no longer need someone to come back to feel complete. You already belong to yourself. Let me ask you something gently. If this person had never left in the first place, would you have become who you are now? Sometimes the ones who disappear are not meant to return. Not because they are bad, but because their role was to teach you how to stand alone. And now that you can, now that your life feels stable in your own hands, you are finally free to choose from wholeness instead of hope. You do not have to reject the past. You simply no longer live inside it. And that is the quiet miracle. Not that someone came back, but that their return no longer controls your heart. You are no longer waiting for love to arrive. You are already living inside it. And from this place, every connection becomes a choice, not a necessity. Which means whoever stays next stays because they meet you where you are, not where you used to be. And in that quiet space where their voice no longer shakes you, something else begins to surface. Not about them, not about the past, but about the part of you that is still learning how to live without emotional gravity pulling you backward. Because the real tension is subtle. It does not feel like heartbreak. It feels like standing at the edge of a familiar door with a brand new house behind you. One foot still remembers the old floor. The other already knows the new ground is safer. And that is where the conflict lives. Not between two people, but between two versions of you. The one who survived and the one who is finally allowed to live. You are not tempted by their presence. You are tempted by the comfort of familiarity, by the identity you once held, by the story where love meant intensity, sacrifice, waiting, adapting. There is a strange kind of grief in growth. No one really talks about it. When you become stronger, you do not just gain freedom, you lose excuses. You lose the narrative where someone else is the reason you cannot move forward. Now the responsibility is gentle, but real. You choose what stays in your life. You choose what energy you let close to your nervous system. You choose whether peace is your priority or just a temporary phase. And that can feel heavier than heartbreak ever did. Because heartbreak gave you something to blame. Stability gives you only one question. What kind of life do I actually want to maintain? Not in theory, not in fantasy, but in your everyday body, your mornings, your silence, your sleep. You are not afraid of them. You are afraid of yourself making a choice that cannot be undone. Returning means reopening a version of you that worked hard to dissolve. It means negotiating boundaries you just learned how to hold. It means explaining your growth to someone who only knew your pain. And walking away means letting a door close without a dramatic ending, without validation, without proof that you were right all along. Just a quiet acceptance that some chapters are not meant to be continued. That is the real dilemma. Not love versus loneliness, but comfort versus consciousness. The old self would have chased the feeling, the chemistry, the emotional electricity. This version of you is chasing alignment, peace that does not require effort, connections that do not cost you your breath. And that shift feels unfamiliar because you were trained to associate love with intensity, with emotional labor, yes, with waiting to be chosen. Now you are choosing yourself without ceremony. No dramatic declarations, no emotional speeches, just a calm inner no that feels surprisingly kind. Aquarius, this is the moment your mind and heart finally stop fighting each other. You are no longer asking who will stay. You are asking who deserves access to the life you have built. And here is the quiet truth most people realize too late. You cannot grow and remain emotionally available to old patterns at the same time. At some point, healing stops being about understanding the past and becomes about protecting the present. Let me ask you something softly. If nobody from your past ever returned again, would you feel empty or would you feel free? Because the answer to that question already tells you everything. Not about them, about you. And the most powerful part is this. You do not need to make a dramatic choice. You just need to stay loyal to the version of you who finally feels at home in their own life. That version already knows what feels right. You just have to listen. There is a different kind of calm that comes after you stop explaining yourself to the past. It feels quieter than relief, deeper than confidence, almost like your nervous system has finally learned a new language. You no longer lean forward when someone speaks. You do not search for hidden meanings. You listen. And your body answers before your mind does. That is how you know something has changed. Because the questions you carry now are not romantic. They are practical, gentle, almost boring to who you used to be. You are not interested in promises anymore. Not because you became cold, but because you became precise. Words used to feel like oxygen. Now they feel like background noise. What touches you is presence, consistency. The way someone shows up when nothing exciting is happening. The way they hold silence without needing to fill it. You have learned that real connection does not perform, it settles. And that is why your heart has become selective in a new way. Not dramatic, just quietly firm. You are not testing people. You are observing yourself. How do you feel after a conversation? Lighter or drained? Centered or overstimulated? Grounded or subtly anxious? Your body is the new oracle, and it does not lie. You notice patterns now that once slipped past you, who only reaches out when they feel empty, who disappears when things require effort, who speaks about building but never brings tools. You do not judge, you simply register. And registration is powerful because it removes fantasy from the equation. You used to fall in love with potential, with emotional chemistry, with the idea of who someone could become. Now you fall in alignment with reality, with what is consistently present, with what does not need to be interpreted. This is not cynicism. This is emotional adulthood, and it feels strangely peaceful to say no without anger, to choose distance without resentment, to walk away without rehearsing explanations. You are no longer waiting for people to become different. You are choosing people who already live in the frequency you need. And the most beautiful part is that you are not in a hurry. There is no rush to fill space, no urgency to attach meaning to every connection, no fear of being alone with your thoughts. Solitude feels like a place you return to, not something you escape. So when someone enters your life now, they are not there to rescue you. They are there to complement a world that already functions. And you feel it instantly, not in your chest, but in your nervous system. No spikes, no emotional swings, just a steady sense of ease. Let me ask you something gently. When someone speaks about the future, do you feel expanded, or do you feel like you are being recruited into a dream that is not yours? Because the difference is subtle. but your body knows it. You are not impressed by intensity anymore. You are attracted to reliability, to emotional availability that does not need to be announced, to actions that speak without needing captions. And that is why you no longer chase clarity. You let it reveal itself. If someone wants to be part of your life, they will show up in the ordinary moments, not just the emotional ones. They will build in silence, not just talk in feelings. And if they do not, you will not argue. You will not convince. You will simply remain where you are, in peace, in self-respect, in alignment, because you have reached the stage where love is no longer about being chosen. It is about choosing what protects your inner stability. And that version of you does not negotiate with uncertainty anymore. It simply stays loyal to what feels real. There is a softness that arrives when you stop trying to feel extraordinary all the time. It does not rush in, it settles. Like warm light on a quiet afternoon that you almost forget to notice. This happiness does not announce itself. It does not sparkle. It does not demand attention. It simply stays. You wake up and your chest feels neutral, not heavy, not excited, just open. Your mind is not rehearsing conversations from yesterday. Your heart is not waiting for a message to feel alive. You move through the morning as yourself, not as a version of you shaped by someone else's expectations. And that feels unfamiliar at first, because you were taught that happiness should feel intense, that love should feel dramatic, that connection should shake your world. But this kind of happiness feels more like alignment than emotion. Then it feels like your inner world finally matches your outer life. You no longer escape into fantasies at night. You do not scroll to distract yourself from silence. You sit with your thoughts, and they are kind, not perfect, not euphoric, just honest. You realize that peace is not boring. It is spacious. It gives your nervous system room to breathe. It allows your body to rest without needing to perform. It lets your mind wander without chasing meaning. And slowly, something rewires inside you. You stop seeking people who make you feel alive. You start valuing people who make you feel safe to be alive. There is a big difference. The old happiness needed tension, the chase, the emotional highs and lows. This happiness needs nothing to prove itself. It does not need witnesses. It does not need a story. It exists quietly in your routines, in your home, in your coffee, in the way you listen to music without attaching it to anyone's memory. And for the first time, your life feels like it belongs to you, not to your past, not to your relationships, not to your wounds, just to you. You start noticing that you laugh differently now, not loudly, but sincerely. You cry less, and when you do, it is not from longing, it is from release. You feel present in your own body, not watching yourself from the outside, not waiting for something to happen, just here. And that presence becomes addictive in a gentle way. You protect your peace not with walls, but with choices. You choose slower conversations, you choose deeper connections, you choose to leave spaces that feel chaotic, even if they once felt exciting. You are not afraid of missing out anymore. You are more afraid of losing yourself again. And that is the most mature form of happiness. Not needing to be needed, not needing to be desired, not needing to be chosen, but choosing yourself without negotiation. Let me ask you something softly. If nothing in your life changed for the next 6 months, would you still feel content? Not hopeful, not waiting, but content. Because that answer reveals how far you have come. This happiness does not come from getting everything you wanted. It comes from no longer wanting what disrupts your inner balance. It feels less like fireworks, more like a steady flame. It warms you from the inside. It does not burn you. And that is how you know you are no longer chasing life. You are living it, not as a dream, not as a fantasy, but as a grounded, breathing human experience. And maybe the most beautiful part is this. You do not talk about your happiness, you embody it. In the way you move, in the way you speak, in the way you no longer rush to fill space. This is not the happiness of being saved. It is the happiness of being at home in yourself. And once you taste that, you never confuse love with chaos again. There is a quiet moment that happens long after the noise fades. Not a celebration, not a breakthrough, just a simple realization that feels almost too ordinary to be called a victory. It usually comes when you are alone, not lonely, just alone with yourself in a way that feels natural. Maybe you are sitting somewhere familiar. Maybe nothing special is happening. No messages, no big emotions, and suddenly you notice something subtle. You are no longer negotiating with your own needs. You are no longer shrinking your truth to fit into someone else's comfort. You are no longer explaining your boundaries like they are mistakes. And that is when it lands. You have stopped abandoning yourself. Not loudly, not dramatically, but consistently, in small decisions, in who you respond to, in what you tolerate, in what you walk away from without needing a reason. This is the kind of win no one applauds, because it does not look impressive from the outside. There is no trophy for choosing peace over chaos, no spotlight for choosing respect over emotional intensity, no reward ceremony for choosing truth over illusion. But inside your body, everything feels different. Your chest is not tight anymore. Your thoughts are not circling old stories. Your nervous system is not bracing for impact. You move through life without needing to protect yourself from your own patterns. And that is rare, because most people spend their entire lives repeating what feels familiar, even when it hurts. You chose something harder. You chose to become conscious. You chose to notice when something feels off. You chose to leave situations that no longer match your inner frequency. You chose to trust the quiet voice inside you instead of the loud emotions around you. And that voice does not shout. It whispers. It says, stay. Or it says, go. Without drama, without fear, just clarity. You might still think the jackpot is something external, more money, a perfect partner, a life that finally looks right from the outside, but the real jackpot already happened. You stopped chasing versions of yourself that were built for survival. You started living as someone built for presence. That is why you no longer feel the urge to prove anything. You do not need to explain your growth. You do not need to justify your peace. You simply exist inside it, and that existence feels stable, not exciting, not intense, stable, which, even for someone who used to live in emotional extremes, feels almost miraculous. You trust yourself now, not blindly, but gently. You trust that if something feels wrong, you will listen. You trust that if something feels right, you will not sabotage it. You trust that being alone is not a threat. It is a choice, and that trust changes everything. Let me ask you something softly. If the person you used to be could see you now, would they recognize you, or would they be surprised by how calm you look? Because calm used to feel like emptiness. Now it feels like fullness. Not because life is perfect, but because you are no longer at war with yourself. You no longer seek happiness as a destination. You experience it as a state of alignment, in your body, in your decisions, in the way you treat your own energy. This is not the happiness of getting what you wanted. It is the happiness of wanting what fits your soul. And that is why the future feels lighter. Not because you know what will happen, but because you know you will not betray yourself again. Whatever comes, you will meet it as you are, grounded, aware, whole. And maybe the most beautiful part is this. You do not even realize how far you have come, because real growth does not feel like transformation. It feels like finally remembering who you were before the world taught you to disconnect from yourself. And that version of you is not chasing anything. They are simply here, breathing, living, choosing peace. That is the real win, and it already belongs to you. And before you leave this space tonight, I want you to notice something quietly, not around you, inside you. That feeling of calm that does not need explanation. That sense of being okay, without a reason. That is not coming from this voice. It is coming from you remembering yourself. Aquarius, you did not arrive here by accident. Not to this message, not to this moment in your life. You arrived because something in you is done with surviving and ready to start living with intention. Not louder, not faster, but truer. If there is one thing I hope you carry with you after this, it is this. You are not behind. You are not late. You are not broken. You are in alignment. And alignment feels quiet because it does not fight reality. It works with it. So, tonight when the world feels loud again, when old doubts try to speak, come back to this frequency. The one where you breathe deeper, where you trust your inner signals, where you choose peace without guilt. This is your new home, not a place, a state of being. And the more you return to it, the less anything outside can pull you away from yourself. If something in this message resonated with you, let me know. Not for me, for you. Leave a comment and write one word that describes how you feel right now. Just one. It is powerful to witness yourself in language. And if this space feels like something you want to return to, stay connected. Subscribe, not to a channel, to a frequency. Because this journey is not ending here. It is unfolding. There are more layers, more messages, more moments of remembering who you truly are. And the next one will arrive exactly when you are ready to hear it. Until then, Aquarius, trust yourself. You are already where you need to be.